It's a quest. It's a quest for fun.
Well, The Rock says, why don't we just cut right to the chase?
Okay, now he wants to get together. Well, he wants to talk.
I want you to do me a favor. I want you to tell all your friends about me.
It's showtime, folks!
What are you?
Hello there. Greetings and salutations. Welcome to And I Quote, the weekly show where we introduce you to content creators of all shapes and sizes joining us from any and all corners of the nerd universe. We ask them some questions to find out what projects they have planned for the future. I am your host, Ryan of Nerd Culture, and our guest this week is a part of the Rising Tide Broadcast Network. He is a horror/thriller writer, and I've waited many, many eons to say this. Hey, Karl, good to see you. Please welcome Karl Witsman. Karl, how you doing, buddy?
Hey, how are you doing?
Doing well, good sir. Doing well. And if you have any questions for our guest, Karl, during any portion of this show, leave them in the comments section. Drop it in the live chat. Our producer is going to be keeping an eye on that as we go throughout the course of the program. So to start things off here, Karl, what were some of your favorite books or writers growing up?
Wow. Okay. Well, Edgar Allan Poe, which is kind of odd. I don't read a lot of horror, but that was one. Kurt Vonnegut. He's a very odd writer, and some of his stories are rather odd, and maybe that's shaped some things. And I've read various humor writers as time went on. Mark Twain, famously. I love those kind of classic writers. And I did not read modern writers until I was grown, I don't think. More like Robert Ludlum and Mickey Spillane and those kind of guys. I didn't read those guys until much later. So I was schooled very well in the classics, I guess.
Excellent. Nothing wrong with that. It's funny you say Edgar Allan Poe because we are in the midst of October, aka spooky season.
Yeah.
Halloween season, just saying. So good picks there. Real quick side note about Edgar Allan Poe, though. Have you seen the film that came out about a decade and a half or so ago called The Raven with John Cusack?
I have not seen that yet.
Okay, well, it's an altered universe kind of take on the, it's somewhat, not really a biopic, but it's like, what if Edgar Allan Poe was like a detective and someone was killing people in the way that his stories have been written? So someone's like ripping off murders based on his story, so it's up to him and a police officer in, I think it's Baltimore, to solve those crimes or bring that killer to justice. So it's kind of like, someone being inspired by Edgar Allan Poe's writing to take up being a serial killer.
That's very interesting because Poe really wrote in The Murders of the Rue Morgue. That was the first real detective character in fiction, as far as we know.
Well, there you go.
A lot of people think Sherlock Holmes came first, but no, actually Poe's Dauphin, I think his name was, Dauphin, was the first actual detective in modern fiction that we know of.
Fascinating. Well, if you haven't seen The Raven, starring John Cusack and Alice Eve, and I believe Luke Evans is also in this film. If you haven't seen it, I would give it a watch. I mean, I enjoyed it. I know some people didn't. I know it got mixed, if not negative, reviews from Rotten Tomatoes, which is somewhat of a bizarro broken system in some people's opinions, but we'll leave that up to you to decide. Now, when did you specifically decide to become a writer yourself, Karl?
Oh, that's a good question. When I was in grade school, there was a school newspaper, and I decided that I was going to try to write a little bit of something for it. I mostly write humor and nonfiction, so that's what I decided. I'll try a little humor. And I wrote a little column anonymously. Even the people in the newspaper did not know who was writing this. And I would put little bits in, and everyone was guessing all over the school, who's writing this? And most of the guesses were faculty members, teachers. Very few people were guessing actual students. And I was very quiet in those days, so nobody really knew me very well. So then in the end, when I revealed who I was, it was like, oh my gosh. So people kind of saw me in a different light. Before then, I was just the geek who knew all the answers in, geography class. But then I was like, oh, well, he's got some creative talent too. And that spurred me on, because once you've given that budding creative spirit a lift, then, you keep going.
Right. So when you were younger in that generation, you were that generation's Good Will Hunting.
Yeah, I guess in a way. Yeah.
Smartest guy in the school, but no one knew who you were, and you didn't take any credit for your work that you were able to prove or put together or write yourself. You had to, hang around anonymously.
Well, I guess because my parents had given me this, I don't want to say ego, but they had given me this encouragement. They had told me, all these things, that I was not really seeking a lot of attention from others at that time.
Mm-hmm.
But I've gotten worse as time goes on. So,
I mean, yeah, if Matt Damon saw you, some odd years ago, he may have been proud of you. But in today's world, he may look at you and say, "Karl, what have you done to yourself?"
Yeah.
Or what have you done to society? I don't know. I'm just messing with you there. By the way, a few people have already joined us. Thank you for being with us. If you have any questions for Karl, let us know in the comments. Let us know in the chat. And also, make sure you share this video with 500 of your best friends. They're going to like the way they look after watching this video. I guarantee it.
For sure.
So, Karl, when it comes to writing, what would you say are some of the biggest rewards of being a writer? What do you think?
Probably the feeling of self-expression when you're doing it, and the feeling of accomplishment when you finish a project. I used to do a lot of short stories and maybe articles for magazines and things, and those were much more rewarding to me, both in that way and financially, I suppose. Then writing a novel is a long process. Writing just even a nonfiction book could be a long process. It took me upwards of a year to write one of the books that I was working on. So, those kind of things are great, but you have to really look at your accomplishments as you go along. So those things, help me. Financially, you're never probably going to make a lot of money on it. It's not something you get into if you're thinking, I need to make some money quick, I'll write a book. No, it's not going to work for you. Write a magazine article. Those make the money, So yeah, it's more of a getting it out of doing something creative and feeling good about that, which is almost like having a child in some ways. People say this book is my baby. Well, in a way, because you want to be creative and issue forth something, and if you don't want to do a child, write a book.
All right. So what would you say are some of the challenges of being a writer?
Ooh, wow. Okay, a lot of these challenges, people will say come from the outside. Like there's distractions, there's my family, there's these people who don't like what I'm writing, or they don't think I can do well. They don't think I can succeed. My computer's giving me problems. But a lot of those problems are things that people could actually do something about themselves and choose not to. They let the distractions bother them. They let the family bother them. They let those opinions of others bother them. I'm in the process right now of writing a self-help book, and I'm waffling on the title, but one of the possible titles is It's All Your Own Fault. Because people let things bother them, things that really shouldn't bother them, that shouldn't be a part of their equation. So I think that is one of the biggest problems writers have, is getting over themselves, getting over their own self-imposed issues, and getting over those issues they let other people put on them, rather than ignoring those and moving on. Now, other challenges, if someone's trying to break into, let's say, they're trying to break into getting into a publisher, it's very hard to do. And they'll say, well, to get a big publisher, you need an agent. And to get an agent, you need writing experience. And a lot of people will not try magazines and compilations and anthologies, but for some strange reason, they think they're beneath them or something. But those are great training grounds to get in and learn your craft. And I'm not sure why people hold themselves back from those. But if you're going that route, that would be a way to take it. Also, self-publishing, which has always been an option. I mean, Benjamin Franklin, Edgar Allan Poe, they all self-published. Walt Whitman self-published a lot of his poems. So, I mean, that's not a bad thing. I think it got a bad name early on in the industry in the modern times, and there were a lot of bad things published, self-published, and there still are. I mean, I won't say they aren't, but I think people got a bad name with it, and so they just thought, I don't want to get in that. But it's a good option for a lot of people.
Yes, it is, and thank you for sharing that with us. Now, I'm just curious. I'm going to bring something up here. How did this story come about? What went into the creation of the story? And also, you're in an elevator with an executive, and you got to give something known as an elevator pitch.
Mm-hmm.
That'll be the second part of the question. But first of all, tell us about the Mad Gasser cheerleader of Calhoun County, if I'm saying that right. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. If I mispronounced anything, I apologize. But tell us about the story. And if you have an executive standing next to you in that elevator, give us an elevator pitch.
Okay. My elevator pitch would be that Dick Jansen is not a very nice man. Okay. He has plotted his revenge on things that he thinks have happened to him. He has learned how to paralyze people with gas. And he is now terrorizing an entire town. Will the town or the victims ever get over it? Okay, that's my elevator pitch, okay?
There you go.
All right. The inspiration for this comes from a real, actual event that happened here in Illinois, not in Calhoun County. I took a county that was up further in Illinois and placed it further south, I think, so to differentiate it. But it happened in the town of Mattoon, Illinois. During World War II, this strange person went around and was spraying gas into people's homes, and they were paralyzed for up to half an hour.
Oh, wow.
And then he ran away. Nobody knew what his motive was. That was one of the things the police were trying to figure out. Why is he doing this? Is he testing for something different? He's going to do something eventually. But there were 8 or 9 reported events. Some of them may have been imagined, but the first ones I think are real. I saw various videos about that and read various articles about it. And I thought,
sure,
I'm going to fictionalize this, and I'm going to give him a motive, or his own in his head. It's a motive anyway. He's a little warped. He grew up without his father. His mother was a little overbearing. He finds a stash of magazines in the barn, since they live on a farm, hidden away where his mom couldn't find them. And they were magazines from his dad. Okay. And they were those true crime magazines, and he's reading those. He's looking at the ads in the back, and he's getting a little more warped and thinking, this is kind of like a message from my dead father. So he goes on his little rampage, and I gave him a motive, and it's mainly revenge. He's been picked on when he was smaller, and he ends up being the bully. And because of his events he's doing, he ends up bullying the entire town, which is beyond what he had actually imagined. So he's like in seventh heaven throughout all this. His crime spree only goes on over, I think, a 2-week period, maybe less. And then it's over.
Oh, I see.
And that's part of the reason that he is not caught in this particular book. Which that bothered a lot of people. So there will be a sequel.
Because Lord knows these days, Sydney, you gotta make a sequel like they did in Scream, as many other horror / thriller franchises. Speaking of slashers, we're in the middle of Halloween season. So if you're looking for a thriller type book, we recommend this one. There you go.
Yeah. People may not be able to sleep after they read some parts of this book.
That's true. Yeah, what I've learned by watching that situation that occurred on Elm Street 40 years ago, whatever you do, don't fall asleep. That's what you don't do. Don't fall asleep. But then again, we do need sleep to remain human. So if we don't get sleep, something bad may happen. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
But great stuff, Carl. Great stuff. Now on the flip side of things, on the flip side of that, something else that's really interesting to me. I want to hear more about this one. Shape up your memory. What went into the creation of this story? And once again, the executives are standing right next to you in that elevator, and you only got a few seconds to make the pitch. What do we got on this one?
Okay. The elevator pitch would be, once I was a salesperson, and a person came up to me in the line, and I said, "Aren't you Alice Gray?" And she says, yes, I am. I said, yeah, I met you at a party about 5 years ago. You could only do that if you trained your memory. So this is a book about how to train your memory to remember faces, names, random facts, phone numbers. We don't need that so much anymore. But yeah, things that you might want to try to remember. Memory is great sometimes, but it also can play tricks on us. And if you have something that you need to keep in your head, this book helps you to train your memory in various ways.
I see.
I was a fairly good student in school, but then I discovered girls. Okay. And yeah, I was like, well, I don't want to spend all this time studying. How am I going to get through, high school and college and still have some sort of social life, perhaps? Hint, I didn't, but still, I wanted to try to have a social life. So anyway, I thought I'm going to have to train my memory. So I did a lot of research into old techniques that had been around since Greek and Roman times. When those orators would get up in the Senate and try to make a speech, they memorized those things using various techniques. They couldn't use notes and things. So after doing all this research for myself, I thought I need to put this into a book. I used to teach it at a YMCA. It was the only YMCA in the U.S. that does not have a pool.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's on the campus of the University of Illinois. But they let people teach various courses. All of them were like dance and yoga and shape up and do this. And I thought, okay, if I'm going to get this crowd to come into my class, I'm going to call the class Shape Up Your Memory. And that just stuck. Yeah. It's a very short book. I mean, it's maybe 40 pages. Because I am an old newspaper person. I was on the newspaper in college, and I worked for a newspaper for a while. And I try to shorten everything and make it the fewest words I possibly can, which has really hurt my novel writing career. Because people go like, well, you need to pad this out. I'm like, no, that's just fluff. So I am a down to the earth writer. And so it's a very short book, but you'll find a lot of useful techniques in there.
Well, thank you for sharing that with us, my God. So basically, this book can help you in a way become the next Mary Lou Henner, who can remember every single detail of her life, which it just isn't. It's crazy to think about, but at the same time, it's rare that you hear about these kinds of stories. And also, Mary Lou Henner is an accomplished actress in her decade upon decades of career. My goodness, I probably messed that sentence up. But anywho, look, she was on Taxi. She was the inspiration for that TV series Unforgettable with Poppy Montgomery. It's just
Evening Shade.
Yeah, there you go. I was trying to get
that
was the project.
great.
I couldn't think of it. I couldn't think of it. Evening Shade. That's what it was called.
Yeah.
Okay,
Loved her in that. At one time, I was working at a place where we had these.
It's amazing.
Job numbers. Okay, and they were
job.
like six digits.
Okay.
So you take these cans, you put them on a pallet, and I was one of the supervisors, and we'd had to write down, okay, Joe worked on this particular job for 3 hours, let's say, and then you moved to another job, and that was another 3 hours, and so you'd have these job numbers. The gal I worked with, there were certain job numbers that were repeated all the time. So the gal I worked with would look them up every day. And I thought, well, okay, that's great. We got the big chart. We can look them up. But those 2 or 3 jobs we used almost every day, I thought, that's a 6-digit. I can memorize that. Okay. So our supervisor walks through, and here she is, my coworker, looking up the numbers and writing them. And I'm just writing the numbers from memory. And she's like, you've only been here like 6 months. And you've already memorized the job numbers? I said, well, a few, yeah. My coworker, she looked at her, she said, you've been here like 4 years. Duh. So yeah, when the next time for raises and promotions came up, I was right there.
There you go, crunching those numbers, remembering certain things, remembering, I should say, specific details about certain items. My hat goes off to you, Karl Witsman. If anyone has any questions for Karl, leave them in the live chat, leave them in the comments. I already see a bunch of you are here and you're joining us. We thank you for being with us. We cannot do the show without you. So, Karl, any special memories from being at conventions or other events, whether you're there selling your books or whether you are there as an attendee?
I remember one particular convention in Chicago. And I remember it because it's so funny years later. We were, a friend and I were walking down the hall, and we're trying to get to this particular panel that was going to have Jerry Ryan, 7 of 9 from Star Trek's Voyager. Okay.
Hello there. Yeah.
And these 2, young teenage girls were in front of us, just giggling and walking along just as slow as can be. And we're like, oh my God, if these girls will get out of the way, and I'm not looking at them very closely because I'm like, they're teenage girls. I don't have any need to be looking at these girls. And they, little short little girls. And so they turn, they go down a different way. And we're like, phew, good, we can get in there. I did notice the color of the top the gal was wearing, I guess. They introduced the panel and Jerry Ryan, and I look at the color of the shirt she's wearing. Yes, I was walking down the hall behind Jerry Ryan, not looking at her. Yeah, I remember that convention. That was sad. And people are like, did you take any pictures? I'm like, I thought she was a teenager. No, of course I didn't take any pictures. What's wrong with you people?
One of many actresses who doesn't seem to age all that much.
No,
She doesn't really seem to age. Granted, I wasn't introduced to Jerry Ryan as an actress until I caught her appearances on Leverage on TNT with Timothy Hutton, and then she was also on Shark, a short-lived CBS legal drama with James Woods at the center of it as Sebastian Stark, aka Shark. That is one of the best, if not most underrated legal dramas I've ever seen in my life. James Woods, Jerry Ryan, whoever else was in the cast at the time. I remember Sarah Carter was also a part of the cast, and this was, I think, after she was on Falling Skies on TNT with Noah Wyle. Great stuff, wonderful cast, wonderful actors and actresses, I might add. So Jerry Ryan, my hat's off to you for Shark, because Shark was just awesome sauce, and it should have stayed on the air for a lot longer than just 2 seasons that CBS gave it. So
yeah, sometimes some shows just challenge the viewer too much, I guess. They're not the same stupid pap that we usually like, and they challenge viewers to think perhaps, or to imagine too much, and they don't last long.
Yeah, it is unfortunate, but these things do tend to happen with network television, or outside of network television, I should say. Karl, what advice would you give to aspiring writers out there?
Well, don't give up. Okay. If you are not, the hardest thing is finding an audience. And by that, I don't mean like finding a bunch of people to buy your stuff. You have to think about somebody as a reader. Okay. How would the reader perceive what I'm writing? And so you imagine in your own head, who is reading this and will they like it? And so that's a hard thing. You have to find a friend, a coworker, family member who gets you, who knows what you're, about. And then you can write it kind of like, okay, I can imagine Willow Schuyler reading this, and what would she think when she reads it? And that is a hard thing to do, but that's something to strive for. So don't give up. You will find that one person that gets you, and then you'll be able to write to them. Another thing I would tell people is don't get too involved with trying to push an agenda, because once people see agenda in there, they'll I don't know. If you have an agenda, you place it in a character. You have another character who is not for that agenda, so they can have some conflict, because that actually, sadly enough, is what builds an interesting story. Is there's conflict, and how does the protagonist get out of that conflict? What do they do to get away from it? And beginning writers sometimes forget that there has to be some sort of conflict in there somewhere, but it has to be something that the reader will believe. Even if it's unbelievable, like the red dragons don't like the green dragons. Okay, but give me a reason that as a reader I can relate to that, and many people forget that.
It's a fair point. Fair point. Good advice. Thank you for sharing those. So you mentioned Willow Schuyler earlier. Hello, Willow. She says, "Good afternoon, everyone."
Hey.
How are you, Willow? You're so busy. How many shows have you done today? 3, 4, maybe 5, and you got another one coming up a little bit later on. I'm just saying, Willow, you're working way too hard. Give yourself a break. Yeah. But even so, Karl, who would you say are some of your favorite writers of today whose names don't start and end with Brian K. Morris?
Okay. I like Ben McIntyre. Ben McIntyre writes true life stories. I wouldn't even call them stories. They are true life books about like spies and soldiers and criminals in the modern era. And I got hooked with him on different kind of spy stories he wrote, and they are true to life. But he brings out the details from old World War II archives. Like, he'll put in there, it was a sunny day when this guy walked out on the street, So I really believe that I'm there with them, watching them. He brings out their personalities, which a lot of people don't. They'll write a dry historical, this is, what the guy did, and this is what happened, and this is, the ending. And Ben McIntyre doesn't. He really makes me believe that I'm there with that spy, and I'm just about ready to get caught by the Nazis. So,
yeah, all right.
He's one of my favorites. As far as novelists, I would probably have to say, after reading Amy Hale's Neurosis.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I read that too, and let me tell you, I did leave a review for you, Amy. It's on Goodreads. I shared it with you through social media as well as Messenger, so I did it. There is proof out there. Just letting the viewer know, I did write this. I'm not just saying this for my own personal benefit. By the way, Amy, Neurosis. My gosh, one of the best novels I've read in recent memory. Wouldn't you agree, Karl?
Oh yes, and that's another one where I wrote to her. I reached out and said, "Okay, now sequel, right?" She's like, "Well, I'm thinking about it." Yeah, you better think about it, because there's unanswered questions in the end.
Yeah.
And, they need to be fleshed out a little bit.
Yes, I believe the term that writers use is called cliffhanger. It left us on a cliffhanger, and I want to know more. I want to know what is going on with these characters in this story.
Yeah.
There you go. If you haven't read Neurosis, Karl and I recommend it to you. Go to authoramyhale.com.
Yes.
Check out her stuff. She writes, I believe it's a combination of paranormal romance, romantic thrillers, and now a new psychological thriller known as Neurosis, which is blowing up the internet, if I do think so. So go to authoramyhale.com. You won't be sorry.
Now, I would be remiss if I didn't mention my favorite author. Okay.
Yes.
And this is for personal reasons. Is Donna Carlene. Carlene. Yes, she's my wife, but she has got 6 or 7 novels out there. Wow. And if you like, she's written one that's kind of like a Southern crime novel.
Is
I
it?
mean, Hunter's Ridge is the title, and these are
Ooh.
all available on Lulu.com.
Okay.
A sassy writer from Chicago moves down to the South
Mm-hmm.
and meets this handsome sheriff, and sparks fly. And that's a good series. If you're more into a more urban type thing, she
Mhm.
has the Beth and Hill series, which follows this couple. It starts out, she's in a wheelchair, and he's kind of assigned to do something close to her, and he camps out in her bookshop to watch the building across the street. A friendship develops, and in the end, you find out, why is she in that wheelchair?
Oh,
Okay.
I see. Intriguing. Sounds
Yeah.
very, very intriguing. Thank you for bringing that up. How long have you and the love of your life been together?
Coming up on, is it 34 years? She'll correct me in the chat if it's wrong.
Yeah. Speaking of shaping up your memory, you don't even know
Yeah.
how long you've been married to your own wife? Gee willikers. What's going on in today's society?
1987.
That's
when we were married.
That would be 34 years, because that's when your host, Ryan of Nerd Culture, was born in 87. So
Yeah.
fun fact for you watching this at home, and that is the exact same year that Timothy Dalton's first James Bond film came out, The Living Daylights. True story.
Yeah.
True story. I kid you not. I kid you not. My goodness gracious. Some of you are already chiming in the chat here, and I appreciate this. Someone brought up something about Jerry Ryan. Brian Wensloff of Reels and Heels. He says, Jerry Ryan, yes, wonderful actress. We're just going to leave it at that.
Yeah.
Donna chimes in. She says, you might want to mention the fact that you were almost over the age of 30 at the time you thought the person you were behind was actually a teenager when you accidentally ran into Jerry Ryan.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
There's that to take into consideration. Gee willikers. Brian Wensloff also says, Jerry Ryan was great when she was on ABC's Body of Proof with Dana Delaney. Okay. That's a good cast. I'm not gonna knock anyone for that. Donna Carlene says, LOL. He's right. It has been 34 years since we tied the knot.
Yeah.
So it's been 34 years of blissful marriage, I'm assuming. Maybe not so much.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not.
I'll tell you a funny story, okay?
Sure.
We first met and dated a little bit. I think we met and were married within like 4 months, 5 months.
What?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
4 months?
We met, I think it was September, and we were married by the end of November.
Oh, my Lord.
Yeah.
That is if I'm right in saying this, would you consider that to be somewhat of a fast-paced romance?
Oh, yeah. And there was a reason for it. We went to her place, and she says, I know you're interested in Star Trek.
Yes.
Okay. I have an article here that you might like.
Okay.
So she goes back in her files, she pulls it out, and here she says, oh, hell, you wrote it. She had saved an article from our college paper. We went to the same community college.
Oh.
She had saved an article from the community college paper that I had written for, I don't know, over 10 years maybe. And I was like, okay, I got to marry this woman. Hey, she's a fan, built-in fan already. So there you go.
Oh my goodness. And she made sure that the facts were straight in the comments. She says, yes, it was 3 months, and we tied the knot soon after that. My gosh, that is one of the most fast-paced romances I've heard in quite some time. That's got to be some kind of record. Does the Guinness Book have this on file? Do we have this on? If anyone is associated with anyone from Guinness Book of World Records, leave us something in the comments, because if this is true, that my mind's going to be, well, no, actually I should say my jaw's going to be on the floor, as if it's not already.
I think I've heard of people who met and got married the same day, but those marriages maybe didn't last quite so long.
I was going to say, doesn't that sound like more like a Las Vegas type romance?
Yeah, I'm thinking.
Isn't that a Vegas thing? Is that a Vegas thing? Does anyone know about this? Brian, you used to live in Las Vegas, Nevada. Can you let us know if there's been something even faster when it comes to romantic relationships that have taken place? Because I'd be curious to hear your thoughts, Brian.
Yeah.
Gosh, he used to
I'd
live
like to
in
look
Vegas.
at the proportion, though, of
well,
the time you've known that person before you're married, and then you you would do some sort of mathematical thing to it to look at how long you stayed married.
Yeah.
And I think we're on a good we're up at the top there.
I was going to say it sounds pretty darn close. If I'm just I'm just spitballing here. I don't know if I'm 100% correct. Like I said, if anyone knows more about this, let me know in the comments. Leave us something in the chat. I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on this. So since you two have been together for so long, I'm just curious. Halloween is coming up. Are you and the missus going to dress up for Halloween? And if so, who are you going to be dressing up as? Do you know as of yet, or is it too soon to tell?
Well, we're going to a convention in Dalton, Georgia on Halloween, the HalloCon.
Really?
Yeah. So I don't know if we're going to be dressing up or not because you got to pack all that stuff, and
that's true.
Are
you gonna pay a visit to Bobby Nash? Because I believe he lives in the great state of Georgia.
If he's at this convention, we'll see him.
You should get in touch with him and find out. Bobby, if you're watching this, let Karl know if you're going to be in that neck of the woods because you can do an authors meetup.
Yeah, exactly. I think John B. Pica is going to be there. Brian K. Morris.
Wow. This is a big event.
Michaela Jade.
Oh, Michaela's going to be
another good writer there. Yeah.
Yes. Michaela Jade's going to be attending. That's a big list, isn't it?
And Dan Hollefeld.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So
there's someone who's got stories for miles. Am I right, Dan?
Oh yeah. So yeah, so we're gonna have a fun time down there. And those are just the writers that I'm just mentioning that people might know. So
it's a great guest list. Make sure you check your local listings, find out who's going to be there, support all the authors and creators and the people who are going to be there. By the way, Brian, I think has you beat here, Karl. He states, well, after a 12-hour date, Nicole and I have been together since the year 2006.
Okay.
My goodness. I mean, maybe not quite as long as Karl and Donna, but at the same time, after a 12-hour date, that's wow.
Yeah, wow.
I think that's quicker than the situation that took place between Karl and Donna. My goodness. Wow, Brian. You're breaking all kinds of records today, aren't you? Man, 12-hour date. Nicole. That is something for the books. I'm just going to leave it at that. Now, Karl, something here I'm curious about. I'm wearing a shirt that says Rising Tide Publications.
Yes,
you are part of something known as the Rising Tide Broadcast Network. Can you tell us, how did you become a part of the Rising Tide Broadcast Network family? And also, what show or shows are you a part of?
Okay, I became a part accidentally.
All happens by accident.
Accident, yeah. Happy accidents. Ted Davies and I were doing a show on cigars, enjoyment of cigars, just chatting and Ted became a part of the Rising Tide Network, so I kind of got grandfathered or adopted in there. And then as a sometimes fill-in host for Brian K. Morris when he can't be there in the morning, I kind of got in there too. So I'm like, I don't really have my own show actually on the network. But I guess I'm a part of the network. So
honorary part of the team, as it were.
I guess, yeah. And now I've got a new job. I'm kind of like a part-time moderator for Brian's show to kick out the trolls and Nazis that stop by, because they do. Between the Nazis, the racists, and sexists, you gotta It's a never-ending battle.
I got you.
Never-ending battle.
I got you. Keep things safe and fun for the viewer or viewers out there. Exactly. I should say that's fair. Well, congratulations on being a part of the Rising Tide Broadcast Network. It's a great family of people over there. Great shows. If you haven't checked them out yet, I strongly advise you to check out the Rising Tide Publications YouTube channel. Check out the Rising Tide Broadcast Network Facebook page. Lots of great programming. Lots of great people are on there. And also, I got to remind myself, and this is to you who are watching this, make sure that you do not tune in when Karl Witsman is substituting for Brian K. Morris as the host of Nevermind Furthermore, because you will be wasting your most valuable time when you should be writing that next great short story, novel, poem, or accomplishing or finishing up your homework assignments like I should be doing. So just hit the snooze on your alarm that says it's 10 a.m. Eastern time, or if you're in the Central Time Zone, that would be 9 a.m. Central Standard Time. Never mind the furthermore. Don't watch it when this man, Karl Witsman, is hosting. You're doing yourself a disservice. He's no good. He wears a silly looking hat that makes no sense to me whatsoever. It's a fandom of Doctor Who that I'm never going to get. I watched 3 episodes of it, and I just couldn't wrap my head around Doctor Who. But listen, if you like Doctor Who, that's fine. You enjoy the fandom as much as you want. But for me personally, I can't get with it. I'm sorry, Brian K. Morris. I tried, and apparently it just didn't work out. We're talking with writer Karl Witsman. If you have any questions for him, leave them in the live chat. Leave them in the comments. We're going to get to them as they come in. Lots of you are saying hi and greeting one another. We thank you for that. Bringing up fun facts about accomplished actress known as Jerry Ryan, or just talking about your married life, because quite frankly, I've heard some stranger things in my day of how people got together after meeting for 12 hours. They get married the next day, or they've met each other for 3 months and they put a ring on it. My gosh, I don't know how the world works, but I will leave it up to you, the experts. So, Karl,
yes, sir.
These next set of questions are going to be powered by our good friends at Poddex, because every episode of And I Quote is, in fact, powered by Poddex. Poddex are the hottest new tool for podcasters looking to have more meaningful conversations or gamify their podcasts. You simply shuffle them up, you ask a question, you let the content roll. Get yours today at poddex.com. Make sure you use promo code NERDCULTURE to get 10% off your order. You're not going to want to miss it. So, Karl, first things first.
Yeah.
What do you think one of the biggest cons of being famous would be?
Not being able to sneak into adult bookstores without being recognized.
Wow, this show just went off the rails. We lost 50% of our viewership because of that comment. Thanks for doing that to me, Karl.
Sorry.
No, it's cool.
It would be like, if you had to go buy some sort of medical thing, like
at the pharmacy, or maybe.
Yeah, or you're having an embarrassing itch somewhere, and somebody walks up to you and says, hey, aren't you Ryan Permison? And you're like, yeah,
I'm busy right now.
I'm kind of busy. Thank you.
There you go. That could be something that could be quite difficult of being famous, I should say. One of the cons of being famous would be, hopefully this question doesn't get an R-rated response. Goodness gracious, what's the last thing you've done that you were really proud of, Karl?
The last thing I've done. Wow.
That you were really proud of.
Well, certainly wasn't the Mad Gasser cheerleader of Calhoun County, because that was scary writing, that thing.
Mm-hmm.
Probably the book I wrote about the Munzie game. It's a game. It's a scavenger hunt game you play on your smartphone.
Oh, okay.
Okay. You go looking around for these little codes that are out there.
Okay.
I don't even know if I have any pictures of them or not. Okay. I'll show you. That's a little QR code.
Yes. Okay. Seen it many times over.
There's a bunch of us that stick those out worldwide on signs and lampposts. We're just trashing up the entire world. You scan that with your phone for points. Yeah. And there was no book about it. And I thought, well, Karl, you've done this before. You see a piece of software that has no documentation. You've written it. Go for it. So I wrote the Uncle Karl's Guide to Munzie.
Oh, my gosh.
And it's worldwide. It's available out there on Lulu, but it's also available in different forums. I posted it for free for people to read, and I just tell them, look, if you like it, great. If you don't like it, just give it to somebody else. I wasn't looking for money for it. It was more a thing of people were clamoring for help with that, and so I was proud that I was able to help people to do that. It's very popular in Britain, Australia, Germany,
There you go. It's an international sensation. My goodness gracious. And also, make sure you are sharing this video with 600 of your friends. They're going to like the way they look after watching this video. I guarantee it. They may not like some of the stories that we've heard recently, but hey, we are trying to give you the best content that we can. That's all I'm going to say about that. Karl, what is the most important thing to carry with you all the time?
Your keys.
There you go.
I mean, I have a lot of friends, especially male friends, who either get locked out of the house or they get locked out of their car. And I'm like, where were your keys? They're on the table. Like, great place for them. Doesn't help you now, does it?
Yeah. Nope. Accidentally left the keys in the key dish.
Yeah.
that people have towards their front doors. Some people still use those. I'm not sure if everyone uses them, but if you use them, that's fine. It's a good way to keep everyone's keys organized, I suppose. I don't know. If you have something known as a tie rack, people put their key rings on those. Some people do.
And I'm kind of obsessive, and my first wife locked me out of the house one time. Okay, we won't talk about her, except she locked me out of the house. And since that day, I carry 2 sets of keys with me at all times.
Yeah, there you go. Always best to be prepared.
Look into my head. It's scary.
You willikers. Always good to be prepared. We'll just leave it at that. What are you particularly suspicious about, Carl? Superstitious, I should say. What are you superstitious about?
Not really. I'm a man of science. I don't get into
science.
Yeah, exactly. Thomas Dolby rules. Yeah.
She blinded me with science.
That's right. So yeah, I try to stay away from all superstition. Nothing seems to bother me. I'll sleep on the 13th floor of a hotel with a black cat in the hall and walk under a ladder to get to my room.
Yep. There are black cats. You got 13 floors. You also have walking under a ladder, going through under a ladder. They say that is considered bad luck.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, doesn't bother me. Sure. It's all just chance, whatever.
It's all just chance. It's all just chance. We'll just leave it at that. Since Halloween is coming up, do you have any favorite? In the voice, I can't do it in the voice of the character, but I'll just do it in my normal voice, as not to scare you, the viewer. What's your favorite scary movie?
Scary movie?
Wow. What do you think? Anything come to mind?
I don't watch a lot of scary movies. That's the thing.
Maybe a Halloween TV special that airs every year.
I'll tell you what. One thing that does is a little scary. Arsenic and Old Lace.
Oh my gosh!
Now that's going to freak a lot of people out because they're going to say, "What was scary about that?" The main character has to deal with his crazy aunt and the whole idea that he may also someday go mad as well, because the whole family has descended into madness. The 2 aunts, the cousin, and he's thinking all this whole time, this experience in the movie is going to make me go mad as well. So it's a comedy, but it's not in some ways. Yeah.
I've heard the title Arsenic and Old Lace over the years. I haven't seen it yet, so I can't comment or speculate. Brian Wensloff says, love those old Italian horror films. Well, you do you, Brian, because quite frankly, you're OCD about horror films. You won't stop yapping about your favorite character, Michael Myers, who's had how many movies? 50 million, and they all begin and end in the same way. There's a mysterious set of deaths around Haddonfield, in that town. Yeah. And they got to figure out, it must be Michael. Why? Because it's Halloween this year. Oh my gosh. What are we going to do? We're going to stop him, right? Wrong. We're going to make room for 50 more sequels and milk the cash cow for all she's worth, considering the fact that Halloween Kills is going to be coming out in theaters and on Peacock, the streaming service, next week on October the 15th. So,
yeah.
If you're looking for the billionth sequel to a franchise that doesn't really need 50 billion sequels, go ahead and watch Halloween Kills. Although Jamie Lee Curtis is coming back for this one and the next one.
Really?
They're making this a trilogy. So there you go.
You got to love Jamie Lee.
She's been in the game for over 40 years. She is the daughter of Hollywood royalty Janet Leigh. Speaking of Alfred Hitchcock, Psycho, anyone? That is a great film to watch Halloween time. And yes, I will admit this to you and to you, the viewer. Psycho is one of my favorite Hitchcock films. I'll leave it at that. It's a good Hitchcock film. My favorite Hitchcock film is Rear Window, because Jimmy Stewart and Grace Kelly of Monaco, my goodness, what a cast.
Yeah.
What a cast.
When you asked me what my favorite scary movie was, I almost said Rear Window.
It's a good one,
because it is very good. I love Hitchcock's movies.
Yeah.
And the suspense of it.
Mm-hmm.
That's very what, for me, is much better than slashing and gore and all that.
Yeah, it's better than Michael Myers, Brian Wensloff, okay?
Yeah.
It is. I'm sorry, but I just can't deal with the same person, Michael Myers, chopping people to bits every year. It's beyond me. But yes, Alfred Hitchcock. Also, Alfred Hitchcock did a film. I saw this one during I think it was either before or during the unfortunate situation that we're currently in that shall not be named. Notorious, with Cary Grant, Ingrid Bergman, and Claude Rains. Fabulous movie.
Very good.
Fabulous movie. If you have not seen Alfred Hitchcock's Notorious, do yourself a favor. watch that. I mean, obviously watch some of the big, the other big fish out there, such as Rear Window, Psycho, North by Northwest. You also have, what was the other one? Tippi Hedren, The Birds. You have The Birds. The Birds is a good one. You have
The Man Who Knew Too Much.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one yet, Carl. That's on my list.
Yeah, you want to see that. The Jimmy Stewart version.
Yeah, I haven't seen that. I haven't seen the 39 Steps. I haven't seen Rope. I haven't seen that one yet either.
Oh, Rope is a very tense movie.
I got to see it, though. It's on my list.
And it was on my list for a long time. Rope is the only movie I know of that only has maybe one break in it.
Yeah.
It's been shot like a play. It's all one scene and only one room. But the suspense that goes on inside that room, you'll love it. You'll love it.
If you want
39 Steps is good. It's one of my favorite movies because there's a memory man in it who memorizes facts for a living. Go on, he goes on vaudeville and people will ask him questions. He spouts them out. But it's also very suspenseful as well. You'll love that one too.
I have to check that one out. Also, this is another film. You, the viewer, maybe Carl, you may be familiar with this one. To Catch a Thief. With Cary Grant and I believe it was Grace Kelly of Monaco, if I'm not mistaken. That is it doesn't get it may or may not get as much love as some of the other Hitchcock films, but it's fun, it's charming, it's got a wonderful cast. Once again, Hitchcock knows how to cast his films. He just knew how to do it. He knew how to put it together. And man, they don't call him the master of suspense for his time for nothing.
Right. Exactly.
So I will leave that up to you. We've given you some great recommendations. If you take these, that's great. Hope you get a chance to check them out. These aren't maybe as scary as some of the other horror films that are out. These are more just thriller and caper-based. So take that as you will. But we want to take this opportunity to thank Karl Witsman for being our guest this week on And I Quote. Karl,
thank you.
Any projects you have coming up, and where can the good people of the interwebs find you online?
Well, they can usually find me following the Rising Tide shows. I try to watch all of them that I can. I will sometimes come over here and watch your shows. I watch a lot of the Hanging with Web shows, So yeah, you can find me there. I'm on Facebook. If you want to friend me, give it a shot. I usually only friend people who I've seen in chats because I've had too many crazy requests recently. Spammers, scammers, and whatever.
The yada yadas.
Exactly. All of my books that are available right now are available on lulu.com. We love that platform because it's not as onerous as Amazon as far as getting books printed and out. They seem to be having problems, but I don't have any problems with Lulu doing that. So I'm sticking with them for a while. And thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
And we thank you for being with us. All the links to where you can follow Karl Witsman on social media are located in the description of this video. So check out his books, check everything out, all the projects he has coming down the line. You're not going to want to miss it. My name is Ryan of Nerd Culture. You can find us on all forms of social media simply at It's Nerd Culture. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, share this video with all your friends. You won't regret it. They're going to thank you later. Trust me. And to you, we say, stay healthy, stay strong, stay safe, read books, and don't forget to check out our friends over at HWWS Web TV. They got a great number of great gamut of shows brought on by wonderful and creative people. And make sure you are supporting indie writers, indie publishers, and content creators of all shapes and sizes. Your support means the world to them. So take care, stay safe, check out HWWS Web TV, and live long and prosper.
I'm GW Pomacher.
I'm Dina Marie.
I'm Sage Ia.
I'm Thomas Carter Rochester.
Hey, I'm David Thompson.
Hi, I'm Kevin.
And I'm Mia.
Hi, I'm Mark.
Hey there, this is Dave Adams.
Hi, I'm Rosemary Rose.
Jerome Conner here.
Hey guys, it's Josh Bauer.
It's Willow Schuyler.
I'm Cosplay Michael.
I'm Bob.
It's your boy Country.
I'm Ryan Permison.
And I'd like to ask you guys,
please subscribe.
Please subscribe.
Please subscribe.
Please subscribe.
Please subscribe.
Please subscribe.
Please
subscribe.
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 Please subscribe to HWWS
Web TV.
Great bunch of people.
And don't forget to smash the bell.
Ring that bell.
Smash that bell.
Hit that bell.
Hit the bell to be notified.
Hit the bell to get notified of new shows
and videos.
You're going to want to do that, so do that soon.
so we can cross that 20,000 mark.
And get us to 100,000 subscribers.
To 1 million and 10 million and 100 million.
On HWWS.
Web TV.
You really like it. I guarantee it.
Thank you.